All right, Coach. Unfortunately, 2025 season has come to an end with that loss to South Lake Carroll. It was a insanely tough matchup going against the number one team in the state. But y'all showed flashes, man. So just give us your overall thoughts on how you think the Bobcats played.
Not well enough in a game like that. I felt like, that things were going to have to happen in a certain way, and put it together, for us to have a chance and to try to get the game into the second half. That was an extremely, talented team all the way around, offense, defense, kicking game. I liked our matchup. I felt like that if things, operated a certain way, that we would be, kind of right there in it. And, it just didn't. And when you play really good people, it kind of snowballed on us there. And they're just tough. And that's why they're the number one team. And, I would be, surprised if someone beats them this year. In all my years of high school football, that's the best team that I've gone against. They're really talented, well coached, good schemes. But I'm proud of our guys. I felt like you're right. We did. We showed some flashes at times and converted. We were able to make some negative yardage plays for them and intercept the ball, from the quarterback, and then, kind of keep us in the mix there early in the game. It's just really tough when you get behind against a team like that. It's very challenging, and staying on schedule is important against them. Creating longer yardage situations for our offense is tough to overcome with them. But proud of the fight of our guys. You watch the tape back, and I'm seeing in the fourth quarter guys playing, as hard as they were on the first play of the game, and I love that. We talk about that a lot, regardless of the circumstances in the game. Winning big, losing big, close game, the same amount of effort, energy from the players, and saw that, 12 weeks in a row with those guys. So I'm happy, great perspective overall about, where the program is right now, about from where it was 2 years ago when I walked in to now is remarkable, where it is. So says a lot about Team 107, the players we got, the senior leadership that was on this team, and kind of what was accomplished this year, and that's going to be a jumping board, for Team 108.
Coach, when I think about our off-season talks this previous year, you always kind of hit on three things. I hope I remember these correctly. I think it was preparation, the will to want to get better, and then just execution. And I might be off on at least one of those. But how would you say that this team lived up to those expectations that you put in front of them in the offseason?
I think you're right. I think that some of the things you establish in that amount of time is are your work habits in alignment with what it takes to win, and you build that during the off season. And I think that it showed with the improvement from last year to this year. The varsity team being 4-6 to 8-4 in a year. I went back to even our JV this year finished. I talked to them about it this morning. They finished 7-3. A year ago when they were freshmen, they were 2-8, and they played the same schedule, and it just kind of completely flipped the script. So you're seeing it throughout the program. And I bring up things like that because I want them to know that's the investment that was made, during December, January, February, all the way until we start training camp for another season. Each day is the most important day in the history of the program. So when you kind of see it that way and know that, man, I've got to maximize this because I know where we're going. You saw a team that invested in that, and the results showed. And some years you have that great investment and you don't quite see it in the results, and that's what's frustrating sometimes. But we certainly saw it, this year at all levels of our program.
Just finished. I know technically the school year's not over, but season number 2 as head coach of the Central Bobcats. From a coaching perspective, how would you grade how you think that you've done and how well this coaching staff has done just to turn things around?
I think that, they put a scoreboard on for a reason. And, regardless of, how well I think I did, you're always judged by how many games did you win, and I like that. I think that that's what's, competitive about what we do and why, the goal is to win. And I've been unapologetic about that. I told our players, man, we are here to win, and, that's the purpose of what we're doing. So when you look at it like that, I know, when you get hired and it takes a little bit to see exactly where things are within that program. Once you get behind the curtain and you look at it, where you want to move the needle to, but you just don't always know right away how long it takes to get there. So it takes an off season, around a group of guys, but see, okay, I see where where this team is going, and then how fast can you get it that way. And I'm pleased. I think that this is, in terms of me, my perspective as a head coach, I love right where we're at. From what we accomplished in year one, 4-6, but we closed the gap on everybody. We lost 5 games by, less than a touchdown. And, then this year, now to flip the script there, 8 wins, a playoff win, it's just another great step in the direction where we're going. So I anticipate, similar growth and improvement throughout the course of this offseason going into the next year. When the guys see and get a taste of kind of what we just did, I want some more of that, and then I know what it takes now to get there. And then now, how can I do a little bit more to get over that next hump that's there?
Coach, kind of building off of that, when you obviously you're one of the hardest working coaches. When you think about just this off season, I hope you take a little bit of a break. But if you don't, what's kind of the plan to? Is there any plan to change anything in the off season? Maybe you like some preparation here.
Yeah.
You don't like what you did here. I know you established the midweek rest on Wednesdays. Yep. Is there anything that you're going to take away and maybe add to your off season?
I do. I think that I come back and I do a State of the Union address, and I usually do that right when we get back after the Christmas break, and that's when I've really had a lot of time to reflect on things throughout the course of the season. And then I address it with the team. Okay, here's the things that we need to improve on, going forward. And a year ago, rewind, we physically weren't strong enough and big enough with the people that we were playing. And so that was a great point of emphasis. And when you figure out what it is that you want to do, and then it affects, all the decisions you make, how do you train then to address the needs that you have? So yes, we will. It will look different. Off-season this year will look different than it did last year. I think everything's always evolving, and you have to address the needs of the current group in what we can do to get better. I think the biggest thing that showed for me this year is overall team speed. We did not have, as much as the people that we were playing. So there are certain things you can do to address that. Obviously, genetics have a lot to do with that, but we certainly are going to address that and do a lot more of our speed work this year. We needed to spend a lot of time in the weight room pushing around a lot of heavy weight last year because I felt like we got pushed around a little bit in the 24 season. So you just kind of see it and you look at it, man, what went on, what did we do well this year, what did we struggle with this year, and then how can you address those things throughout the course of your off-season program and then implement that. I think the danger is people get into a habit sometimes of like, you just do the same thing every year. And man, this is what we do in December and January and February. And you have to peel back, every layer of that onion and figure out, all right, what do we need to do specifically with this group to address some things that hurt us, the previous year. So that's in every area. Evolving as a coach is a constant that you got to have. Studying new things, whether it's schemes on the field, addressing the needs of this team will be different than team 108, be different team 107. So I'm excited about that. I like that part of it. I think it's really where I love doing that, diving into it, and I like communicating that to the players. That's what that State of the Union address when we get back is like, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and this is how we're going to get there.
You had some pretty awesome senior leadership this year. So some guys really stepped up in that locker room and on the field. First off, just brag on your seniors just a little bit, but who do you expect to kind of step up to fill in some of those voids?
Well, I think that I want to, the seniors on this team were great. And what I think makes it unique for these guys is that, a lot of them just been lifelong friends. When their parents came up and for senior night, the parents decorate the locker of their senior child, and then there's a lot of pictures and memories through their childhood. And I just would go through the locker room and see, man, all these guys have been together a long time. And they just grow. And I think that's what makes it even more unique is that when you've got, kids that are connected, and have been connected a long time, I think it really does matter. And all the shared experiences that they've had, and it culminated here, in a playoff win. That was an amazing thing for these guys, but it was a really strong group of seniors, and I think a lot of that has to do with how connected they've been their entire lives with each other. So, and then as far as the next group, it's to be determined. I think that, a lot of that has to do with, grabbing the mantle of leadership within the team. And I always tell the guys, you don't have to be, a vocal rah-rah guy to be a strong leader, but the one quality that all leaders have is that they give people a reason to follow them. And how do you give somebody a reason to follow? You do things the right way. You're always out front and getting extra stuff done. You're always there whenever something is going on. You're participating at a high level. Your energy is always consistent. Your performance is equally consistent. It's not somebody that rides the roller coaster wave of emotion, and just shows up consistent, always there, giving their best, encouraging one another. So give people a reason to follow you. And whenever you do step into that role, then the eyes are on you, so it's almost when you're there, man, now I really can't, ever mess up. So I like that. And it's kind of yet to be determined. We'll see, but hopefully we got a bunch of them, just like we had a bunch of senior leaders this year.
All right, Coach. Well, congratulations on a successful season.
Thank you, guys.